Hey, Coach. Thanks for joining us this evening. So we have a mix of players, we have a mix of parents, coaches from the HEADstrong program, and we're really excited to hear what you have for us tonight and the challenges that we're facing with the restrictions and everything that goes along with recruiting this summer.
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm happy to be here. This has become comfortable pretty quickly, and that's probably pretty scary. I'm doing a bunch of these, talking to different groups, and obviously, I think it's important. What I've been saying to every group and to even individual recruits is the one thing that we're not going to be able to get back is time, and so we want to take advantage of this time, even though it's a very different time. But the guys on this call, if they're juniors in high school or sophomores in high school, the clock is still ticking towards their high school graduation, and they want to be doing the best thing that they can be doing. Each day, each year that they have, which is right in terms of wanting to play college lacrosse, if that's the end goal. So this is a different reality than I think we all hoped for and anticipated, obviously right now. But I think the coaches and the players and the coaches, or I should say the parents that take advantage of this time in a uniquely different way will be better for it. So I know there's a lot of anxiety. There's a lot of unknowns. There's a lot of, how do we move forward? And we're going to try to figure it out. I know, but as I speak to college coaches across the country each and every day, we're committed to engage. We're committed to spend time with, whether it's, on this platform or others like this, to meet and greet and build relationships with players and coaches and families, so that when the day comes that we can get back together face to face and playing lacrosse and doing campus visits and doing all the things that we did 8 weeks ago, that we are that much further down the road. So I'm happy to be here tonight. I look forward to an engaged conversation and answering questions and helping in any way I can, with the HEADstrong group and with the guys that are here tonight.
Great. Yeah. So we're going to basically, Coach is going to give a presentation on three topics that we talked about. And we're going to open up the end for question and answer. If you feel more comfortable chatting out the question, I can ask Coach that at the later part of the discussion. So feel free at any time to chat a message over, and we'll make sure Coach gets to every question.
Yeah, I mean, and so the big unknown right now is for the guys and for the coaches is what is there going to be a summer recruiting, and the answer is no one's sure, right? And if it is, what is it going to look like? It's obviously going to be something very different than what we all anticipated potentially. What I've pretty much learned through this whole process is things change quickly. You need to be adept at doing that. You need to be responsive to that, and I think that's no different than what we're teaching young athletes in high school and in college. To be able to be adapted to the situation and the circumstance, and find ways to still be, to overcome. So the unknowns about summer lacrosse and recruiting, and what you can be doing now are really the three, are huge topic discussions. And lacrosse is a sport that's normally played 10v10 with guys coming in and off the bench, and those are hard sports to replicate when we're doing a social distancing and isolation and quarantining. But there are things that every player can be doing. Obviously, first and foremost, your pathway to college is through academics, right? It's finishing up. Most of everyone's in the fourth quarter now and finishing up. Some guys will finish sooner than others. But finishing up and making sure that, you haven't done anything to derail yourself academically from being a recruit. And I know every school district and every teacher has a different virtual presence, and I'm dealing with it within my own house. And how some are way more interactive and some are more assignment based, and but for the guys on this call, there is a lot of self-management and a lot of hybrid and online learning that was happening in the college classrooms before COVID. So you're going to be that much more prepared when you actually step foot on a campus and start, pursuing your degree because of this experience. Right now, it seems like something has been taken away from you, and in traditional sense, it has. But you're also being given something that, you've been able to, given an opportunity to hone skills that you may not otherwise have done, like we all have, and that's gonna, that's gonna set you further down the road, especially when it comes time to college. And so academics and staying on point with that is really, really important. For every $1 that we spend on an athletic scholarship in this country, we spend 10 on academic scholarships. And so when you think about that, that's your pathway to college. That's your pathway to getting recruited. That's your pathway to financing and self-financing your education. So academics and seeing the fourth quarter through, no matter what grade level you're in, is really, really important. And trust me, I know that now in week 8 or 9 or whatever we're in of distance learning and being at home, and the weather's getting nicer, and it's tough. It's really tough to stay focused. I see it. But as athletes, we need to have that self-discipline and that guide and that understanding that the decisions we make today will affect tomorrow. So that would be my first piece of advice. What can you be doing athletically? It's continuing to just try to be athletic. Continue to work on your stick skills. Find a ball, find a wall, get on it. If you're lucky enough and fortunate enough to have a goal in your backyard, get shots up each and every day. Work on the things that sometimes are hard to work on when you're practicing and playing games every day. Because when we're in those practicing game situations, we're always going to play to our strengths, right? We're always going to play to our strengths in those situations. We're going to do what we do well. We're going to do it over and over again. And these are the times where you can really start to work on the things that you have self-identified as somewhere you want to get better. If I'm a strong right-handed player, working on my left hand, and vice versa. If I'm a defenseman who needs to work on his feet or getting his hips open and doing a bunch of different things. There are things that you can be doing. If I'm a goalie, taking shots, whatever it may be, there are things that you can be doing, and you can be creative in that. And I would encourage you to use your creativity now more than ever in terms of working on your game, working on your, I was on last night with the group, and we're telling guys to be creative even in creating recruiting videos. A lot of juniors were thinking, well, this was going to be the year I was going to get on film. I was going to get this spring and this summer, and all of a sudden now that's gone, potentially. Well, here's the thing. Maybe guys on here played football. Maybe they played soccer. Maybe they played basketball. Maybe there's some videos out there of you guys being athletes. I've watched a ton of football video. I've watched a ton of basketball video. I've watched a ton of lacrosse video. And again, it gives me a picture of you as an athlete. It allows me to see, your finite athletic skill, no matter what the sport is. And as coaches, we can translate that potentially into how it's going to be sport specific. So if you have film in other sports, that's fine. We're dying for content, as they say, as coaches, to be able to evaluate you and give you pointers and those types of things. If you have freshman and sophomore film or fall film and it's not the great, it doesn't matter at this point. Again, I've been saying that right now, what is viewed as such a negative in terms of not having a chance to go play a high school season and a club season, potentially, not saying definitively, but know this. I have never spent more time on my computer in my life. I have never spent more time responding to emails and watching film and going through every detail of guys contacting me. Because right now, if we had the season that I thought we were going to have, I should be getting ready for the Final Four again. That would be the last thing on my checklist, would be reading emails and watching highlight videos right now with the upcoming Final Four weekend. And so understand that so what is a negative in terms of not being able to be out there playing and progressing as an athlete, I get that. But no, from a college coach's standpoint, we have more time than we've ever had. And we can read emails and watch videos and ask for more and interact and use this kind of technology that we're using right now to build a relationship. And so, again, it goes back to time and taking advantage of this time that we have, and not continuously, just focus on the negatives of what we've lost. And I think that's critically important for all of us, but especially for the young people. You're developing a skill set, whether you know it or not, that's going to serve you well in life, especially. So those, again, it's there. If we're hopeful to get out to events, if they're smaller in nature, if they're closer to your home, if they're small instruction, and, again, as things reopen, rephase, I was talking to coaches throughout, if you have access to an event or a college, showcase or prospect day that may not even be a college that you're on your first choice, but it's an opportunity to compete and get some video and get a tape. I'm on a national coaches organization, and we're trying to get some of the southern states potentially are going to open before us, and there are camp and tournament directors talking about moving events down south, and people are going to have to make decisions. But even something locally that allows 20 guys to get together ultimately. Let's say in July and August, there's small events are allowed to happen, and with them some instruction. Anything is better than nothing. It's about being flexible. It's about being adaptive. It's about, being willing to find that opportunity. And, and I know guys will be jumping at it because we've all been sitting around for the last 7 or 8 weeks. And so if those opportunities present themselves, and I hope that they do, I would encourage each and every one of you to try to jump on or be a part of, or see if that potentially may work for you. And from that standpoint, again, I know there's a lot of anxiety. We talk about it from the academic side too. A lot of the juniors and are in college prep mode. And here's the deal with the 21 class is we need you. And you need us. So we're not going to skip recruiting a 21 class because of all these unfortunate circumstances. We're going to still need at Cabrini, and we're no different than a lot of the other programs that are out there trying to build a class. We're going to bring in 12, 13 guys in our 21 class. It's going to be spread out across the different position groups, as you would imagine. So we're going to have to be creative. We're going to have to use club and high school coaches like never before. We're going to have to go back to old school recruiting, where coaches are going to have to give me verbal description of players and strengths and improvement areas. It's what we were doing when I first got into the business. We didn't have video and all this access to tournaments and showcases and prospect days. Those things didn't exist, fellas. You had a high school season, and then there was maybe 1 or 2 tournaments a summer, and that was it. And not every guy played in it. So I had to call a club coach or a high school coach and get a verbal description of who you are as a young man, your character, your work ethic, what you bring to the table. Are you on time? Do you treat your teammates, your coaches the right way? And then we get into what you bring to the lacrosse team, what your skill is, what your improvement areas are. And that's how we're going to have to maybe do it for a while. And I'm okay with that because that's the system I came up in. So the day of, being able to go watch someone play 18 times in the month of June and July isn't there, and coaches can't adapt. Well, then shame on them that they haven't built out those relationships that, are so important in this game. So being part of a club program like HEADstrong, continuing to utilize your high school coaches, is critically important now. Those networks and those relationships and their relationships with college coaches and resources and so forth is never more important than it is right now. And so I know we all want to play, and I know I want to go out and watch you play. But right now that's not feasible. And so we have to, again, make sure we're focusing on the time that we have, utilizing it the best way we can so that we're not behind the process when it's time as we get closer and closer to, return to play and those types of things. So
Coach, just a first question. How does a player who's interested in playing at the next level, how do they get started? What things do they need to get together for a college coach to take them seriously as a recruit?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it's again, direct communication, small, introductory emails with just some bulleted, facts, or just a short kind of introduction. Hey, this is where I go to high school. This is the club team I'm with. This is my position. This is my grad year. I'm interested in Cabrini University in this case. I'm interested because I want to study, business administration, or whatever the major that you want to do a little bit of research. You want to make sure that the small personal emails are really important to me, right? And I think those are meaningful. And they've taken you can tell that the student and the student's family's taken some time to do a little research on your university, to make sure they have the right academic program. And then again, most of these emails this time of year are, hey, this is who I am, and this is where I'll be playing the next 3 weekends. We're still getting them, but what's going to happen in June and July, we're not sure. So again, identify who you are, where you play. Any film link that you may have is great. Something's better than nothing. Whether your mom took it, your dad took it, you got it from a high school, it's filmed from a high angle. Again, and if it doesn't exist, it's okay, fellas. Take a deep breath. Relax. It's not the end of the world. We're going to figure it out. And then also tell me a little bit about yourself as a student. By the time I'm a sophomore, I'm a junior, my grade point average is this. A lot of guys, no matter what class you're, haven't had the opportunity to take the SAT or ACT. There's a lot of anxiety around that. We get it. I was in receipt of an email today from the SAT talking about adding dates and doing in-school tests and virtual, and they're ramping up a virtual version of the SAT. So they're going to figure it out. And a lot of schools like Cabrini, we have gone SAT optional about 3 or 4 years ago. So we had a pathway to accept already. Not everyone chose to do it because there were certain benefits to submitting test scores, but we already had that pathway created. So we're not in a panic mode especially for the younger guys, the 21 guys that haven't taken a standardized test score. But it's about letting us know who you are, where you're from, what you're interested in, and giving us a way to connect with you. And that's the way you get recruited. I think a lot of players will sit back and think, well, if I'm good enough and if I play well enough, they'll find me. And that's just not the case, because there are so many players out there playing in every state, and they're hungry to make a connection and build a relationship with college coaches. So sitting back and kind of waiting for someone to find you may not be the best approach in any way, shape, or form. And so those would be kind of my short-term things of getting recruited. And make sure you're doing what you need to be doing. If your club coaches are asking you to do something, or your high school coaches are asking you to do something right now in terms of those things, make sure you're doing it, and make sure that you're committing the right time to it, so that again, when we ask for that character piece and that what kind of young man is this, the responses are affirmative and positive, and we know that we're headed in the right direction with building a relationship with the right type of young man. So there's a question I see is, 2 sports mixed into one film or 2 separate films. It doesn't matter. It's funny with Huddle, and this is probably how we started watching more football film. With Huddle, a lot of guys will post multiple sports in there in their Huddle accounts. And when we have access to it, we can see football highlights. We can see lacrosse highlights. And they're great. I say there's a lot of fall sport film because we actually got to play fall sports and winter sports this year, right? It was the spring sports that got canceled. So, those sports are the ones we got to participate in. Some guys got to play indoor lacrosse. Some guys have fall recruiting film. Obviously, those are all great things. Creating film, another question, creating film in the backyard is great. There are certain positions that probably are a little bit more conducive to doing it and making it a little bit easier. If you're a goalie, you probably have the easiest way to create a backyard film. You got a goal, you got your equipment, you got someone to shoot on you. If mom's the better shooter, let her be the shooter and dad can film. If dad's the better shooter, or switch it up. But I can see your hands, I can see your positioning, I can see your feet. I can see, a lot of things in a short amount of time. And that kind of tells me, if you have a wall and a ball and a camera or someone that can film you, I can see on a wall. I can see a wall ball drill. I can, I can see your right hand. I can see your left hand. I can see the quick twitch. I can see the things that we look for, that hand-eye coordination. And so those things, again, I can't tell you how, if we had gotten these things 8 weeks ago, we would have been like, whoa, what's this? You know what I mean? Now we've been like, all right, this kid's taking initiative. It's creative. It gives us a little insight into, how hungry he is to get recruited. And I think there are no bad ideas right now, to be honest with you. I really do think that there are no bad ideas. What are automatic turnoffs? I don't know they got to be pretty. Most of them are character related in terms of turnoffs. You want to make sure, we always joke about this, and you've heard it probably a lot, and maybe the young guys haven't, but you want to make sure if you're sitting down at a computer and you're going to say, tonight's the night I'm going to send out 5 emails to college coaches, right? And this happens all the time. And here's my 5 schools, and here's the 5 coaches, and I've created an email, and I just got to remember the only thing I'm going to switch is the coach's last name and the university in the first sentence, right? And so you do it. The first one's good. The second one's good. The third one, you do it. And then the fourth and fifth one, you forget to switch the coach's name and the university, but you send it to the fourth and fifth school. So I get an email at Cabrini saying, dear Coach Berkman, my dream has always been to play at Salisbury University, right? So now I'm reading it as Coach Colfer at Cabrini University. And so, A, I know you're interested in Salisbury, which isn't a bad thing, right, for us. And B, but I also know, like, hey, accidents, mistakes happen, but take the time, reread it. There's so many good tools right now on which I've learned, I wish these things existed when I was in school, that you can highlight what you've just typed out and hit playback, and the computer will read it to you. So it makes sense that you didn't, put a word in there that shouldn't be in there, or use a school that you shouldn't be, when you're sending it to, and use those tools and edit it and make send it to the right schools. Again, that's a small little thing. But, again, turnoffs are major character issues. If I call a high school coach and, and he's like, listen, he's a good player, but, we're still working on him as a young man. We're working on him as a student. We're working on him as, a lot of things. Listen, fellas, there's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of young men playing lacrosse out there right now at the high school level. Cabrini needs 12 or 13. We're not going to make a class of guys that have big character flaws. We're just not going to do it. Now, one mistake does not make you unrecruitable, right? Again, the size of the mistake. But we want to make sure that you're doing all the little things right now. You're staying on point academically. You want to make a point that you're, doing the things that you can do to work on your ability as an athlete right now, even in small ways that are going to make you and we want to find guys that love the game. And I think that's what sets college lacrosse players who achieve apart, is the guys, they have a love of the game. And that's right now, that love is being tested in a way that it's never been, because it's been taken away from us. So you got to really be creative and find ways to make yourself a better player in these isolated moments. Coaches looking at 22. So right now, in terms of like looking at 22s, it depends, it depends on how many 21s you have committed at this point. So our recruiting cycle, imagine, last summer we were watching, probably early in June, we were watching the 20s and the 20s through probably about early to mid-July. We had probably known who all the 20s were. We had seen a bunch of guys. We had guys committed at that point. So we're watching and finalizing that about halfway through the summer, because a lot of these tournaments, as you guys know and the coaches know, have multiple class years at the same tournament on different fields, or fields will rotate. So halfway through the summer, we start watching 21s, and we really want to build an identity of who the 21s are. And then when we were out this fall, we're watching same thing. We watch most of the 21s throughout, halfway through the fall, or once we started to see the same teams over and over again, and we have a pretty good analysis on the 21s, we start watching the 22s. And again, the 22s, we're building an awareness of them. We're looking at the stronger kids in the class, the better teams. We're building out databases and those types of things. We're really trying to get those guys to come to prospect days, to build a relationship with them, to see them up close and personal, those types of things. So everyone's always looking at the different class years. Right now, the 21s are the ones that class guys are trying to fill classes, finish classes, build classes, and the 22s were all in that evaluation process and building out and a better working knowledge of who they are and what position they play and what do we think their ceiling is as a player in relation to contributing to our program. Yeah, I mean, Zoom meetings is what we have, right? And the question is about making a good impression and treating it like you're coming into my office on campus the same way. I know it's comfortable to be at home, and I know it's easy, and I know it's, hey, just flip the screen on, but we're doing Zoom, virtual recruiting meetings. Again, we're doing them every day with guys in the different classes and the 21 class, and it's them. It's usually their parents. It's a PowerPoint presentation. There's a couple video attachments. It's a walking athletics tour. It's a drone tour of campus. We're utilizing all of our tools. We have Zoom meetings with myself and my assistant coaches. We have them with our athletic and academic advisor. We have them with our athletic admissions counselor. We have them with one of our student athletes, with an alum. So there's a lot of tools to interact with and people to interact with for families to get a sense of. And these were the people that you would most likely be meeting with on a recruiting visit. But we're able to do things on Zoom that we wouldn't do. I couldn't get an alum to my office on the off chance of the day you're recruiting. But now on a Zoom meeting, I can get an alum who works in the field that you may be interested in studying. And I can get him to pop up on the screen, and he can talk about his time at Cabrini. He can talk about his career and how that Cabrini has affected him. And schools are being very creative in that. So treating a Zoom meeting like a FaceTime call with your buddy is the wrong approach. Right? You need to have a professional kind of appearance. You need to be engaged. You need to, we really, I don't say require, but really encourage. We try to do them whenever guys are available with at least one parent. A lot of our presentation is obviously engaged with parents too as well, and recruiting the family. And how you interact and how verbal you are, and allows us to start to engage, your interest level. And, I think that's really all we have right now. And that can make a big impression in terms of how you handle it and how to approach it. It's crazy because we're doing them, and we have 21s who have not set foot on campus officially. They may have been there for an event or come by for something. We've done Zoom meetings, and we have guys committing off these things. You know what I mean? Where, it's nutty, but they've been on campus unofficially. They've now met with the coaches. We've given them the layout. We've seen them play in the fall. We have a good analysis of them. We've cross-referenced our stuff with our high school coaches and club coaches, and families are like, listen, we know you're going to be taking 12 or 13 guys, and we want one of those spots. And if you're offering, we're going to take it. And we're actually working backwards. The last thing that they might be able to do in this process is do a campus visit. As crazy as that is, that used to be the starting point of a recruitment process. So, these things are really important, and I would encourage these guys on here to make sure you're taking them seriously and doing the right thing, and treat it like you would if you were going on campus and sitting down with any college coach that you might be interested in playing for. What can we do to guide? Again, guiding the 21s right now is a lot of what we're talking about. It's making sure that they are ready when the switch gets flipped back on, and that they're staying in shape, that they are, it's easy to do it when there's a coach blowing a whistle and your teammates are doing it. It's hard when no one's looking. And that goes for a lot of things in life. So right now, potentially no one's looking, and it's easy to take a day off. And I know when I'm in a good routine of working out and doing the right things, I get in a good routine. But once I take one day off, that next day is easier to take off. And then that third day is easier. And then a week goes by, and then 2 weeks go by. And next thing you know, you're in a routine that's negative to where, what you want to do. And as a lacrosse player, these are the days and this is the time you don't get back. So if you can do a little thing on being athletic and staying in shape, going for a run, it's good for your mind, it's good for your brain. It's, get on a wall, have a goal in the backyard, do the things that maintain proper social distance, that keep you healthy, that make sure you're not getting in trouble and crossing boundaries that you shouldn't be. But also you can find time individually, jump rope, create games, be creative, be creative in these moments. If you do that, and the coaches are encouraging you to do that, and they're giving you tools, there is so much material out there right now. The one thing I'll also tell you, especially for the 21s and anyone on here, watch lacrosse. We all want to play lacrosse. We all want to play. I want to play a game. I want to scrimmage. I want to do this. I want to shoot it. I want to watch. Get on the computer and watch games. Watch players at the position that you will emulate. Watch players that you emulate at your position. Watch what they do. Watch what makes them, successful. Watch them what makes them uniquely skilled. Try to mimic that in the backyard as best you can. You know what I mean? But watching is really important. I had an injury in college that put me on the sideline for a year. And that's probably the seed that was planted in me to become a coach, because I spent a year watching as a part of playing. And I started to formulate in my mind, what I would do here, what I would do there. So watching it can affect you as a player, more so than always just doing it. You can learn by watching, and you can incorporate that. So there's a lot of material out right now. Coaches are putting it out. They're pumping it out. There's webinars. There's game analysis. There's all kinds of different things that are going on out there. And I would encourage you to consume as much as you can. Find YouTube channels of different schools. We post videos there all the time. We posted a game last night. We'll post another one this week. We're going to repost the national championship game next weekend with some cool features and add-ons and those types of things. And try to consume it, and try to, because you can learn in those moments. You can watch, and you can kind of see, some of those things that you've heard your coaches say over and over again. You can see on a screen. You can start to visualize it, and then you can take it to the backyard. You can start working on it. And you can start and then bring it back to the practice field when club and high school seasons get going again. So I would say watching lacrosse right now and consuming it is one of the things that I would strongly encourage anyone to be doing, especially the 21s. Watching college lacrosse, if you have the expectation of playing college lacrosse, watch it. Watch the speed of it. Watch the intensity of it. Watch the nuances at your position, and see if you can find a way to incorporate that into your game. Top 3 qualities you look for in a player. We're all uniquely different, but in terms of quality, and quality, you have to have a high level of character. I like guys that are personable, that are proactive as opposed to reactive in terms of their communication, in terms of the way they just engage. I think that's important. I think, the cliches are guys who are hardworking and that are talented and so. Well, if you're a good player and we assess that, then those things are probably happening behind the scenes, in terms of that. So a lot of things that we like to do is if we're evaluating at a high level as a player, we can see that, and every coach can see that. When we engage with you as a player, we're looking at your character. We're looking at kind of how you engage with your teammates, with your coaches, with your parents. And we also look at leadership, and are you okay with being a leader? Are you willing with being a servant leader? Are you willing to serve the group? And those are the things that are really intrinsically important, because we're going to call on those traits every day in that you're with our program in some way, shape, or form. I tell this story. We had I guess we got shut down on a Thursday with COVID. And so we played on a Tuesday. We played our last game. We didn't know it was our last game at the time. We played on a Tuesday, and Wednesday was going to be our off day that week, because we had practice on Sunday. And so we needed to build an off day. So Wednesday was our off day. So off days are off days, that we can't bring guys in to do film. They can't come in to do anything. It's their off, and they can do, treatment and athletic training is all they can do. But we talk about servant leadership. We had a sense that morning when we woke up that, coronavirus and COVID was becoming real. It was getting closer. And, the captains had gotten together that night and figured out, like, what can we do to potentially keep people back? so the captains, 5 of them, came in that off day and had stripped down the locker room to the base, took everything out and cleaned it from top to bottom, disinfected every nook and cranny, every locker, cleaned out everything. Most captains, in my time, yell at young guys to clean the locker room, clean the bus, clean up stuff. They came in as leaders and said, no, you know what, we're going to do this for the team. And they spent, 3-4 hours cleaning that locker room spotless. Now, the unfortunate part of that is we came to work the next day and we're about to go to practice on that Thursday, and they shut us down, and they shut down obviously pretty much all athletics within the next 24 hours or so. So, but again, being a leader, but also being a servant leader is something that, if we can find examples of that in players' history, either with their club program or with their high school program, that goes a long way. And obviously you're playing for a club program and affiliated with a group that, in the HEADstrong group, that obviously, embodies that to the 10th extreme, in terms of serving others and serving humanity for that sense. So you're in a good space to be influenced in the right way in terms of good culture from that stand. Did I miss anything? Not a question, but this gave me so much relief. I don't know if that's just a statement, but I'll take it, Alex. Thank you. If something I said gave you relief, I'm happy to provide that right now. Are there other questions or coaches, topics, things that you'd want me to talk about or engage with?
Coach, how important is the academic aspect of a player coming in?
Sorry.
Just anything, like if they have a history of struggling in high school, are you more hesitant to bring them on, or do you look for a certain GPA or anything academically you could fill in the gaps with?
I'm going to steal something that I got secondhand from Dave Cottle at when he was at the University of Maryland. You better be better than your problems, right? So if your problem is academics, right, you haven't done what you're supposed to be, you better be way better than your problems, okay? And so what I mean, and that doesn't mean it's going to be but we'll work with guys that may, a lot of guys sometimes transition from middle school to high school, and there's that transition year or whatever. But if 2 players are equal of talent and skill, and the differences are marginal, and you have an A-B player and a C player, in terms of academics, and both are of equal talent skill, we're going to go with the A-B player because, A, we only get so many spots. B, they're a better investment, in terms of recruitment and retention, right? And so those are the things that we always have to look at. And so, yeah, academics really do matter. And for us as a Division III school who competes regularly against Division I schools in the recruiting landscape, we don't have athletic scholarships. We have to maximize our academic scholarships and our need-based monies to get the best players to come to Cabrini. So most of the guys that we recruit at some level may have looked at or aspired to play Division I, and for one reason or another, it wasn't the right fit. But so we have to capitalize on their academic portfolio in terms of helping them self-fund their education. And so fortunately at Cabrini, we have really good tools to help us do that. And we're able to kind of take that and package that and get and net a really good player. So again, the numbers in terms of us recruiting a freshman class each year are in our favor because of the amount of young men that are playing high school lacrosse in this country. But we want to get the best 12 or 13, whatever the number may be that year, that fit, and academic fit and recruitment, and also retention and wanting to be a graduate of Cabrini University as opposed to just being a recruit of Cabrini University are 2 different things. And we like to have guys who understand in the recruitment process, they are being recruited to be a graduate of our university and not just a recruit. And getting recruited is just the small first step on the ladder that we really want to put guys on in terms of what the end game is and what the end goal is for them as well. So, yeah, academics is huge. I know the guys on this call, the players here, from their moms, their dads, their teachers, their coaches. And listen, you guys, some of you may this is the first time you've ever had me. Everyone's hasn't gotten together behind your back, and they're not all lying to you, right? There's not some big conspiracy theory out there. They're being honest with you. They're shooting it straight, and they want you to have doors that stay open for you. And as a player, to have options and opportunity in life, that's the best situation that you can get into. If you can put yourself in life to have multiple options or multiple offers, and have to decide between some really good ones, then you've done what you've been asked to do. And so, but academics is paramount. It's the number one thing that's gonna, open up probably the most doors for you in terms of getting recruited beyond your athletic ability. What about conduct with the school? If a player shows improvement, will it help them get recruited? What about conduct within school? Yeah, I mean, again, here we are, fellas. We're back to recruiting about 25 years ago right now. So we're vetting guys in different ways. We're talking to high school coaches. We're talking to club guys. Some coaches work in the guidance office. Some guy, so we're using verbal recommendations and verbal analysis more than we ever have in terms of identification of players. So conduct within school and being a good student and those types of things, and being, we don't want guys who haven't figured out how to carry themselves in the hallway of their high school. We don't want what are they going to do when they get to college? We don't want guys that haven't figured out how to be respectful of the students around them, their teachers, the other students, their teammates, and those types of things. There's just no reason for us to recruit a player like that. So conduct within school is obviously a huge issue. We watch guys as they interact with us on recruiting visits. I'm very cognizant of how they interact with their parents when they come and visit campus. And again, I know we're not doing that right now, but we will. And how they interact, and do they hold a door, and do they say thank you, and those types of things. Like, those seem like little things, but they're big things when we're trying to figure out, hey, that's, you'll hear a kid leaves our campus. We'll look at our coach and say, that's a good kid. That's a good kid who's being raised right. He's respectful. He values the right things. And I think he'd be a good fit for our culture. And that's really important to our coaching staff, because that's who we want representing us. And so small little missteps, we've all made them. They don't define us, but if we learn and grow from them, then you'll overcome them. But, we don't want big glaring character flaws, in guys, that we're looking to recruit. We don't need to do that. If a player shows improvement, improvement is the name of the game. That's how we watch guys. If we watch a guy last fall and we get to see him, this summer in some form, and he's improved, we're watching that trajectory head in the right direction. Guys are growing. They're getting bigger, faster, stronger. They're developing finite athletic skills. So, that level of improvement is important. We try to take notes on as many guys as possible in any recruiting tournament. Things that you do well, things that we may see that you need to improve upon. I'm a big, again, I've been doing this for 25 years. So when I watch guys play, I'll take notes on players who you remind me of, who I've coached, and skills that show similar traits to, and I know what their ceiling was, and I know how successful they were. I know if they were an all-conference player, an all-American player, or they were a guy that, came in and worked hard every day and did the glue plays, as we call them, the plays in the middle of the field that keep us stuck together, and those types of things. And so I'll make notes that reference players that have come before you. And that gives me a good reference in terms of, your athletic, resume and profile in terms of the type of player that you are in our system. And so, that improvement piece is huge. Absolutely, we're looking at that. Any other questions or topics? Or
I have a question, Coach. Brian Sperry here from Woodstown.
Coach, how are you?
I'm all right. I want to know if there is down here in South Jersey where we're at, we have several junior colleges that don't have any lacrosse programs, and some of the boys, whether it's financial reasons, they're just not able to get to a 4-year in university or college.
Yeah.
But they want to play lacrosse. Is there any pathway for them by going to a junior college without, and maybe not going to Cabrini, but maybe going to Newman or Wyden or just somewhere else? Is
Yeah,
there
I mean, anything's possible. Sure. I mean, if they're in school and doing that because that's, and they can still play the game, whether it be in a rec league or a club league or a Sunday league, whatever they can do it. You know what I mean? Stay connected to the game, get film, do whatever they can do. What I would also say to do, and I know it's tough this time right now with a lot of the economic stuff, but if there's enough of you at the same school, march into the whatever, dean of students, director of athletics, whatever it may, every day with your lacrosse sticks and say, hey, can we start a lacrosse team here at Salem County Community College? Because there's 12 of us here that want to play. Can we start a club team? Can we start an intramural sport? Can we, that initiative is huge. And make yourself known, or whatever the Cumberland County or Salem County or whatever it may be, be persistent. That's how mountains get moved, is through persistence. So, that's how a lot of programs started at colleges, is that guys showed up and started saying, hey, can we get a goal on campus just to shoot on? And can we play a little intramurals? Can we do, and be persistent in that. And if those options aren't there, try to stay connected. You can play in Sunday leagues. There's Sunday leagues all around the Delaware Valley that you can play in. As a college player, a lot of the guys that will be playing in them are post-college, but there's guys playing in them that maybe playing in them that are at schools that don't have teams, and stay connected to the game the best you can from that standpoint. But
so the playing club in college you would consider that to be a good resource to get film for that?
Sure. Yeah. Everyone always wants to know what's the right path to get recruited. And the answer is there is not one path. It's whatever path presents itself to you in life and how you take advantage of it. But parents will come into my office all the time and say, what's the value on club versus prospect days versus showcases versus high school, and listen, there's a pathway for all. They're all valuable. We interact with all of them, and we put a value on all of them. And as college coaches, we have to interact and be aware of cognizant of all of them. So playing club in a junior college or what, and you're a really good athlete and we can see that and we can get film on you, or on the off chance watch you play. Now, junior college players can still go to prospect days. We've had junior college players come to our prospect days, and that's legal in the NCAA. So if you're a freshman at a local community college that's not playing or is playing on a club team, you can still come. You'll be at that prospect day with high school guys, but we'll be able to put you through the drills, the full day of drills in our program that allows us to kind of see the athlete you are, the player that you are, and crazier things have happened, you know what I mean, in terms of guys getting recruited. Absolutely.
I have one last question, so I
Yeah.
want to take so much. When you are watching your film and you're talking about different twitches that certain players have if they cut right and whatnot, I want to know how much off-ball movement are you able to watch on those films to get a better feel for that player? Because I try and get the knowledge into the boys, like, yeah, look, off-ball movement is key. I don't even get to see half the stuff you guys do on the field because I'm usually watching off of the ball to make sure so-and-so is supposed to be where they're at. And I wanted to know, when you're watching that film.
Yeah, well, we start our first day of fall ball with our freshmen, and we talk about in the recruiting process, but what we talk about is 90% of our offensive development is 90% of our offense is off the ball. And so if you're not comfortable in being off the ball and being dangerous off the ball, you're going to struggle in our offense. And then that leads us right into the famous Bobby Knight line, who was a college basketball coach, which, the coaches probably know, but maybe some of the players, who his famous line was, the ball finds energy, right? So if you're off the ball and you have energy and you're moving and you're kinetic, the ball will find you. If you're a statue and you're stagnant, the ball may not find you. And so for our type of offense that we play, with not getting too nitty gritty into the X's and O's here, we have 3 plays, and they're not even plays. They're 3 formations that we run everything that we run out of, and we just won a national championship at it. There are some schools that probably have 52-page playbooks, and guys have to memorize play after play after play after play until the coach calls it. And hopefully they remember it exactly as it was put in 6 weeks ago. But we don't subscribe to that. We look for athletes who can play within our system, that know 3 basic formations, and how to play out of that, play to their strengths. But 90% of the movement within that is spacing and off-ball movement. It's any B-level defensive recruit can stop the ball, right? Put your best defender on the ball and then commit an early slide to it. It's what guys are doing behind the ball that are screwing up sliding and recovering and spacing and all those things. So, yeah, if we can see film with off-ball movement, huge. And we'll watch guys and we'll watch a combination and we'll make an assessment specifically with offensive guy. Like, he's a pretty good dodger, but he's great off the ball. Like, and he goes into this bucket as an off-ball guy. And if he's an attackman, a lot of times we'll talk about that. Then our recruiting will be based around trying to find more ball carriers that may complement him well, around him. We call the guys, we build out a recruiting board on our whiteboard in our office. And, we have different positions, and quarterbacks, we call them, or guys that play behind that run the offense. We have guys above GLE. We have guys that can play on the low pinch. We have inside guys. We have guys that we think are good, going to be EMO guys on the left side or the right side. We have dodgers. We have, flow guys, we call them, in the offense. And we need all of them, right? And so we build out those buckets offensively, and we watch you. You have no idea what bucket you're auditioning for, but we're going to tell you as part of the recruiting process. We're not going to trick you. We want you to be bought in and have the same vision as we have. We're not going to try to tell you you're a quarterback and then bring you in and have you play, on a right-handed wing. And you're thinking, well, he recruited me to have the ball in my stick. And, that's only going to happen if you and I and the offensive coaching staff sit down and feel like it's in your best interest to move positions. But, so we build out a board based on your skill set and going back to one of the players' questions about improvement, where we see your potential improvement and where we see your potential role, but all through direct, honest communication that starts in the recruiting process. We want guys bought in from day one in the recruiting process of what the role they're being recruited on, so that there is no confusion, when they get there, and they're excited about that. And that's what they're committing to. They're committing to the university, to the coaching staff, to the culture, to the opportunity to be an alum of this university. But also they're committing to a recruiting message that was honest, that was transparent. And I think that's who we are and what we've always tried to be. I think my honesty sometimes is my greatest strength and my biggest weakness. But I think players and parents at the end of the day, appreciate being shot straight, and we start that in the recruiting process. What do we staff look for in a player when at tournaments? Again, we look for athletes, right? We look for athletes because athletes play all different positions. So we had a starting defenseman last year in the national championship who was from California, who came as an attackman. But we identified him as an athlete, in the recruiting process. Some things happened. He had a couple knee injuries along the way, and we made a position change because he wanted to do it and he thought we could do it. But we identified him as an athlete, as a high school player. And so that athleticism allows us to make different choices, because athletes just want to play, whatever the sport is, whatever the position is. They want to go play. And so we look for athleticism. We look for, guys getting up and down the field and having, that ability to be athletic in whatever situation is, whether it be the goalie, whether it be tackmen, midfielders, or defensemen, LSMs, even face-off guys. We look for that athleticism first and foremost. We look at what kind of teammate you are. How are you interacting? How are you interacting with the officials? How are you interacting with your teammates on the sideline? In club and tournament play, we get up real close, and we can hear everything. We're right on the sidelines. We're sometimes parked right off your bench. We're listening. We're watching. And so that really is very critically important. Addressing the officials the right way, addressing the coaches the right way, addressing your teammates the right way. Really, really important. But watching you being an athlete is paramount, regardless of your position. Want to see how you do things, want to see how you move, want to see how you get your hips open, want to see how you close out, want to see how you track the ball. Those are some of the things that we obviously, but athleticism is obviously the key thing that we look for in terms of your assessment from that standpoint. We have a lot of dates for prospect camps this summer. It's just a matter of when we're going to be able to use them. We've been holding back a little bit. I mean, we have one in late June. We have a couple in July. We have a couple in August. We grabbed up some more dates than we normally did just because, again, we don't know what the big recruiting events are going to look like. We've been hesitant to publish them right now because we're not sure, but I think June 4th, which is coming up in about 2 weeks because we're in Pennsylvania, we'll have a better idea of kind of what we're going to be able to do through the month of June and potentially July based on what the governor's office says. So we've been a little hesitant to put them out there, but we do have a bunch. And as soon as we get even a glimmer of hope and the worst thing is that we advertise them, we get guys signed up, and then we unfortunately either have to move the date or credit future day or send back, we can do that. But we do have a bunch coming up, one in June, I think 3 in August. Not know why we picked those dates was just because when we got a sense that the summer may look very different and smaller events, unfortunately, may be the way that we have to go for us to come up. And so we'll put them out as soon as we can, and they'll be right on our website, our social media. They'll be on our Instagram, our Twitter account, and our website. And we usually blast them out through like Philly Lacrosse website too as well. We'll send them out. We also send them to all the local club directors in the area and ask them to push them out to the teams as well. So, but yeah. That's true, Chris Copeland. I appreciate that. Honesty is never a weakness. 2 questions. Is it important for Paul to know how to play as the D-mid? It can hurt, right? It can never hurt. A lot of times what happens with younger defensive players and even our guys, they get very reliant on that long stick, and they let bad habits creep into their game. So what we do a lot with our defensive players, especially we do it every Friday before Saturday game or every Tuesday before Wednesday game. Our long poles don't carry long poles. They have short sticks in their hands all day. It forces them to work on their feet that day and really focus their brain and their feet for the game that they're going to play. And 2, it takes a lot of pressure off our attackmen and offensive midfielders' hands those days before games. We don't need broken fingers and thumbs and stuff going into big games. So, but what it does is it makes them work on their feet. It makes them work on, their angles. It makes them work on their leverage and not be so reliant on a 6-foot pole. So getting some runs as D-mid. And again, we've had guys, because again, I'll go back to athletes want to play. I've had guys come in as LSMs and close defensemen. They look around the room. They see a couple All-Americans at their position. They see a couple juniors and seniors. They're a freshman. They're thinking, all right, well, I'm pretty good, but, I'm going to go out and I'm going to give it everything. But I want to play, and I don't know. I know he's recruited me for a reason, so we're going to be honest with you and tell you where you are. But then they look around and say, well, I could be a pretty good D-midi, and I used to do it, or I have some experience doing it, and it may be an opportunity for me to get on the field closer. And so it's a conversation that we're always potentially going to have. If we can find a way to become have more depth within our roster, we can reward a good, hardworking player with playing time and a way for our program, our ball club to get better. Sure, we're going to entertain it. So getting more experience doing that, being a deep pole, LSM, or a close defenseman, and playing with a short stick is only benefiting you in your development as a defenseman, because you're going to be working on the best thing that we evaluate, the biggest thing that we evaluate, which is your feet. The best defensemen in the country have the best feet. That's the bottom line. They have the best footwork. They close out the best. They track the ball the best. They're able to make, evasive movements with the ball. They're able to, and so best feet make best defensemen. And so playing D-midi sometimes makes you have to rely more on your feet and less on your stick. So absolutely, I think that's intrinsically important. Important for a midi to be a two-way guy. Yeah, here's the thing. None of you guys have played yet with a shot clock. Shot clock at the college game has changed it significantly. We don't have the ability to sub guys like we used to. We don't have the specialization that we used to. We don't have all O middies, all D middies, all face-off middies, all wing guys, and we wholesale sub guys. So guys have to be able to do more than one thing. Guys have to be able to get up and down the field a couple times and shoot. Not every O-midi does that. We do have what we call squirm guys, and guys will squirm off the field to get an LSM on, or if we run our ride and set our ride that we can get another guy to the box and get a second guy on. But most offensive midi lines have at least one guy who's expected to play offense and defense each run. And he has to know both sides of the ball. He's got to know what our offensive playbook is that day. He's got to know what our man-to-man package is that day in terms of where are we coming from, how are we helping, He has to know our zone stuff. So we try to keep it simple for that reason defensively, because of our middies don't get the reps in practice that our D guys may get, but they need to be in the moment in the game. They need to know what we're doing. So being a two-way guy, really important in today's college lacrosse landscape. The game has only gotten quicker with the shot clock, and the ability to sub has diminished. And so those things are, really, really important. So, trying to incorporate, we do drills called, one of our favorite drills, our guys' drills, is called NASCAR. And basically it's called NASCAR because it never stops, and it's hard sometimes to do with high schools or clubs because of the numbers, but you can water it down. You don't have to make it 10v10 full field. You can make it 7v7 and bring the goals in to the restraining line or whatever the numbers you have. And you surround the balls, the sidelines and the end lines with 100 ball, how many balls you have. And the ball never goes out in a sense. You only get one shot per possession. So that offensive team has to value the ball, but they get a shot, it goes out of bounds. It's automatically the other team's ball, and they pick it up and they go. And there's no subbing, and we play for 2 minutes or whatever, and you're playing offense, defense, and how you value the ball. Our guys love it. It's one of the drills that we probably do every day. As soon as I call it out, blow the whistle and say we're going NASCAR, the yells go up, the screams go up. They divide, they're in their blue and white jerseys, and they're ready to go. And we do face-offs out of it, and we try to get into our rides and clears, and we play to the shot clock. And sometimes we'll shrink the shot clock down even. We'll play 50 seconds or 40-second shot clocks to really speed us up. But guys have to be able to do that. So it's a fun way to get a lot of reps, do a lot of different things, and compete. And then that's what our practices we try to do, is really design a lot of competition in the, in the course of a 2-hour practice. Footwork drills, there's a ton. If you have the low profile cones, there's a bunch of different things that you can do right now in terms of, footwork drills and side to side drills and back pedals and making sure you're closing out. And, one of the best weapons a defenseman have right now is a jump rope. Jump rope is key. Putting your long pole down on the ground and doing jumps over it, and doing touches and seeing how many touches you can get. But there is a bunch of stuff out there on the internet right now for defensemen to get footwork drills in, using a cone, using your stick, using your gloves, making sure your stick. A lot of defensemen, young defensemen, like to carry their stick in, tucked along their hip. They don't have it out in front of them. They're not, in the proper position. They're more upright. You need to get a little flex. Again, watch the game. But, Aiden, if you go online and just Google some defensemen, there's a bunch of guys out there right now at all levels that are putting stuff out. And if you email me directly, I can point you in the right direction of some stuff, some content stuff that's pretty good right now in terms of defensive players and things to be able to do, even just in your backyard with, a ball, a stick, and just the willingness and want to get better.
I think those are all the questions for this evening. We really appreciate you coming on, and I'd like to thank everyone that asked all those great questions. I thought we covered a lot of different topics, and there was a lot of great information shared. Yeah, no, I appreciate it. If you can't tell, I love talking lacrosse, and I'd be on here all night. But we miss it. We all miss the game. We're going to get out there soon enough. The future is bright for all of you guys. I know it seems like it's, by the time you're my age, you probably won't even be able to remember this summer, right? It'll be forgotten. And so you'll have so many other things in your life that are so much more valuable. So continue to do the right thing, stay healthy, follow the rules, do the right thing, stay engaged academically. Don't let that slip. Don't create a hole for yourself right now when there shouldn't be. Find a way to be an athlete each day. Go shoot, play basketball, run up and down the street, play jump rope, throw a lacrosse ball against the wall, do whatever you can. Just find a way to be athletic and keep your mind engaged. And if you do those things, we'll be through this thing before you know it. I look forward to watching you guys play. I look forward to watching you guys grow and develop and hopefully, build a recruiting relationship with some of you guys on here. And if I can help in any way with any advice or any information that I can provide, please reach out to me, and I'm happy to do so and look forward to, watching you guys develop over the years. So I appreciate it. Thanks again, Coach, and have a good weekend.
All right, boys. Be well. Talk to you guys soon.
Thank you, Coach.
All right.